Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't done a podcast in a bit. It's been probably a month, so I'm feeling a little rusty. We have these new cups too that have,
Mm.
look at this, the I Hate Simkin logo, which is me just giving the finger, which has really been the logo of my entire existence. And Alex is back. Hello, producer Alex. He's been in his homeland, aka Ireland. Are you good to be back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I haven't done this in a while, and I'm excited. And I'm excited for my guest, who's somebody I've known way too long. My guest today is you're hard to encapsulate. You're kind of like me. You've done a lot of different kind of stuff. So I'll do my best here. We'll break it all down.
I have a hard time explaining myself sometimes.
Okay.
What I do. So,
Good. Then I feel better that I'm having trouble. So
but we have known each other a long time. I was thinking,
long time.
I guess I should let you do the introduction.
Let me introduce you.
Yeah.
And then we'll get right into it.
Sure.
So he is, like me, a very proud Vancouverite, somebody who really loves Vancouver, and maybe I shouldn't presume that, but certainly is obsessed with it, like I am. Grew up here, like I did, and he's part of the local music community. I first knew him as a musician, but he's also a very accomplished writer. He's also a radio host. He's also now a politician. And he's a friend, and his name is Aaron Chapman. And Aaron, thanks for doing this.
Great to be here with you, John. I must ask, because as a Vancouver historian, what is the history of this building we're in? I know you've been here for probably a better part of a decade or something, but
well, it was right after Call Me Maybe, because I always had the idea to. Have you even had a walk around?
I just came through just briefly right to this room, but I was looking at the outside of the building thinking I've passed this place many times.
People always wonder what's in here.
And the sort of anonymous black building, and probably viewers or listeners to the podcast are kind of aware of the space, but maybe not seen the building or whatnot.
So so we bought it after Call Me Maybe. I'd always had the idea to build something like this. And just didn't have the money to do it.
Right.
I had been saving, and then Call Me Maybe happened. I was like, oh shit, now I got the money.
Yeah.
So we bought this building in Strathcona, Railtown. And what it was, believe it or not, was, if you were Jewish, I would call it a, oh God, I'm having a brain fart now on the Jewish word for shmata. It was a shmata business.
Wow.
And shmata is one of those funny words in Yiddish that implies things, like it doesn't, what it implies is not just that it's a garment manufacturing plant, but kind of a sweatshop. Like that's kind of and that's kind of what it was. So the first time I walked in here was with my wife.
I'm not Jewish, but I did get put in Jewish daycare, the only Irish kid in Jewish daycare up in Oak Ridge in the 1970s.
Because you grew up in Kerrisdale.
I grew up in Kerrisdale, but we were up in Oak Ridge for about 2 years before we went back to Kerrisdale, and I got put in the Jewish daycare center. And my buddies Adam and Elijah and stuff like that I hung out with, I would go to their homes.
You met them there?
Met them, yeah. I met the chosen people there, yeah.
And of course,
I thought the dreidels were cool. You see, we didn't have that in Catholicism or Anglicanism.
I think non-Jews think dreidels are cooler than Jews.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know why I say that.
Yeah, I just thought in religion that comes with toys. That's a bonus. You know,
well, we had to get compensated because at Christmas, all our friends were getting all the Christmas treatment, and so we had to get
your own thing.
Something.
Got to get your own thing.
Crappy little,
top, I thought it was good though.
Okay, it's better than nothing. But so, and that's funny also, now we're already getting all over the place, but I grew up on Willow Street 2 seconds from the Jewish Community Center.
Right.
Like literally I grew up on that road, which is craziness. But, so this building, so we bought the building and, there's studios in here and there's our offices and a full-size sound stage. And it's pretty wild. Like I'll show you after, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But, it was a shmata. It was a sweatshop kind of.
Yeah.
So Jennifer and I, the first time we saw it, and I remember it was like a hot day in August, I think, and we walked into what is now the sound stage, which is in the back of the building, and it was like 40 elderly Asian women behind on sewing machines.
Just working away.
And by the way, I'm not implying something illegal. I have no idea, but it was unpleasant. I assume for them.
And now you have Alex and Irish labor here.
Yes.
That you're working to.
I feel much better about Irish labor.
Putting them, nose to the grindstone every day and your own sweatshop.
Because for me, it's more like they deserve to be, I don't know, Alex, I'm kidding around. I'm just fucking around with you. But no, so but it was interesting. And there's some interesting things as a result of that. So example, there's this window that people, if anybody's watching this on YouTube, you'll see there's a giant window.
We always
behind
see
us.
the street scenes in the videos.
And I love it because it's
Yeah.
like CNN, but instead of it being Manhattan and businessmen, it's crackheads and,
people of
more
Railtown.
interesting people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
People I'd rather sort of check out. So,
Sure.
so there's that. But the reason there's all these big windows, and this isn't the only one, there's 3 sets of giant windows, is that they would display their wares. Because when we bought the building, there's all these broken mannequins.
Right.
So
Wow.
they were, now, God knows when this was a neighborhood you'd want walk-in traffic. I mean, she built the thing. We bought it from the woman who built it.
Wow.
And it was like in the 60s. And then she did an add-on. Like, so there was
Yeah.
more stuff added. But she was in her 90s, and we bought the building
Hardly.
directly from her. But it was a mess. I mean, it was what is now the studio was kind of 30 years, 40 years of just garbage.
And this building has become your base of operations for the label, studio, podcast.
It did. And I've told this story, so I'll keep it brief. I think I've told it on the podcast. But basically, I mean, it was a few things.
I'm interviewing you now, it seems.
You
like.
are. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
I've always had a distaste for, well, I wrote that article for Billboard about unnecessary middle persons. That's been something about this business that has always bothered me.
Right.
There's all these people who you have to pay, even though they're not necessarily doing anything for you. And this all started when we did our first deal with Universal in 2001, where I was getting pressured to give them digital rights. And like, I kept saying, like, why?
Yeah.
I can use iTunes Producer because there wasn't even streaming then. It was just the Apple download store.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, why would I pay you to do something I can
submit and put out?
It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that was always a theme with me. I always didn't like that. I don't come from the music business, so I wasn't willing to just go, oh, that's just the way it's done.
Yeah.
Like, no, that was never for me. I'd question it all.
Yeah.
And that's why to this day, we've kept all our digital rights right from that very first deal. It's very unusual for independent labels in
And
Canada.
it's probably worked out very well.
In ways that you would expect and not.
Yeah.
Financially, but also it's caused our company to learn digital in a way that I think a lot of independents didn't, because it was just like, okay, Universal or Sony or Warner, here, you do everything.
Yeah.
Take your 20% or 15%.
And do nothing with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I just, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but I saw a documentary a long time ago about Motown, and it was shot in black and white. So I think it was probably shot in the 60s. And they did a bunch of stuff right in the Motown building in Detroit. And the interviewer says something to Barry Gordy, something like, hey, this is like a complicated building. Can you explain it? And he says, it's not complicated at all. We make the music over there and we sell it over there, because he had a record store in the front of the building.
Right.
That really, with my distaste for unnecessary middle people in this business,
Resonated with you. Yeah.
really resonated. I'm
Yeah.
like, I should have my own studio. Then, little things happen. The organ ended up making that beautiful record that won the Polaris this year, the Heritage Award. They made that in the back of the original 604 because the record they actually made, they didn't like. So they said, we want to start again.
I remember you talking about that just in a previous episode.
Yeah. So it's, all of that together kind of made me go, I want to create my own universe almost.
Yeah.
Where artists have a hub where they can create content, do it all here, and we can even disseminate it into the world from here.
Yeah.
And that was the idea.
Yeah.
But it was a clothing, I guess, manufacturer, for lack of a better phrase.
It looks pretty well built. Looks like a pretty sturdy building.
It's a sturdy building. We got very lucky too, because we got Darcy Jones, the local award-winning architect, who we knew a little bit because our kids went to the same elementary school. But he was like, I've never designed a studio. I'd love to. So he gave us he was very kind to us in what he charged. And a lot of what you see in the building is very much his vision of like, I want to keep a lot of the old stuff, but just add enough new. So this is this room we're in is a great example. We've got this beautiful new table that they built. And I think, what's his name, had something, Bruce.
Bruce Charlotte? Bruce.
From Tank Hog.
Oh, Bruce, Tank Hog Bruce.
Yes.
Oh, he
was
had a
worked
hand
on
in
this building. A lot of the woodwork is him.
Oh, wow.
I think including this table.
Excellent.
And then, but it's the original brick. And he's like, I love the trestles up above. Let's keep those. We'll just clean them up.
Yeah.
I love the original floor. Let's keep that. So, we kept a lot of the original stuff, just added enough new
Bruce
stuff.
Is pretty handy. Yeah. Yeah.
And Bruce was great.
Yeah.
Bruce was great.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got so far off topic there. And It's just me talking about
Start over
myself.
again.
And
Let's
it's
start
not-
over again. Yeah.
No. But I want to talk about you. I don't want to talk about me. So I don't even know where to start. I was wondering when I first
I remember
met
my first conversation with you.
Okay, because
Oddly-
I don't, so let's hear it.
Oddly enough. Well, it probably wasn't the first. It was probably the fourth. But it was the first one we had I remember seeing you at the town pump probably a couple times, sort of nodding acquaintance level for a bit. And then I saw you by your old office down at Dominion Square.
Yep.
Down there.
Yep.
And I was passing by, and this was around the time of the probably midway through the Sarah McLachlan, Daryl
Newdorf
case, trial. What would you call that?
trial. At that point.
Trial, yeah.
Yep.
And I said, I think I said something, hey, how's it going? Or how I had been reading about it and asking you, and it probably said something of a positive, it seems like you've been making some good work there or something. And you asked me what I thought of the case or what, and I was kind of, I appreciated the fact that you were asking me, and not that I had any legal background.
Yeah.
Although my father and brother are lawyers, and my cousin was a provincial court judge, and there's lots of lawyers in the family, oddly enough.
Yes.
But I remember talking with you at that, and I remember walking away from that conversation thinking, geez, if this doesn't work out, I wondered if you would put yourself in a position where you had been, because you took that case, whether you might suffer being blackballed by the music industry, or there'd be some blowback to you.
It's such an interesting thing to say because, again, you're interviewing me, but that it's just fine. But it's such an interesting question because I wasn't in the music industry before that. It wasn't like I was the guy who was from the music industry. Dale Darlington and Lynn Kelman, I just happened to move into an apartment building and was their next door neighbor. That's how I met Daryl Newdorf.
Okay.
I had nothing to do. I was a criminal lawyer. I was a poverty lawyer. I was doing refugee claims and criminal law.
Had you done a bit of music stuff?
Nope,
like that?
zero.
Was that the first?
Didn't even take copyright in law school. Nope.
Wow.
I think it explains a lot of the success too, because I didn't bring all that weird baggage that most people, because most people who do what I do are failed musicians. Right. It didn't work out for them in their band. So it's like, well, shit, I'm going to start a record company, or I'm going to, whatever, So that wasn't me. Like I didn't, I just sort of always done stuff, what seemed to be like common sense to me. But yeah, no, I did fall into that all completely by accident. And, I was worried about that, but not so much because, again, it wasn't like, oh my God, all these years I've been working in the music business are going to be destroyed because of this case. I didn't have a career in music at that point.
Right. That's interesting.
So that really wasn't.
I thought you had a bit,
by the time it ended, I did.
Right.
Because that case took like 6 years that's the irony of it all. It was that case that got me meeting other people in the music business.
Right.
And there were a lot of people but it really did set a tone for me. And absolutely, there were people who held it against me. Absolutely, people looked at me sideways. Absolutely. And we lost big.
Yeah.
Like we got our ass fucking handed to us. And I was like, okay, well, whatever I was going to do in this business, that ain't going to happen now.
Yeah.
I'm done. You can stick a fork in me officially. But you know what?
This is the beginning of I Hate Simkin. This is
the beginning of I Hate Simkin. And, but the funny thing is, I got as much respect as I got hate from that.
Interesting.
There are a lot of people like that took balls and, hey, say what you will, you sure gave Network a bloody nose and probably cost them, if they just settled, they would have spent less money than they ended up spending on law. Not that I was out for that. I wasn't out to hurt them. It was just, it was just a case I took. Nothing more, nothing less. I didn't know it was going to turn into this fucking circus.
Yeah.
Because it all fits together, even creating this building where I can almost pretend that the music business doesn't exist outside of this building.
Right.
Because I don't really want to know. Like, did you watch the Junos last night?
I didn't.
You did or did not?
I did not watch it.
I don't know anybody who did.
Yeah. I did not watch
Like, I don't know what the relevance
but that's more
of that
has to
is.
do with what I'm doing right now than maybe what I've done.
But if you really wanted to see it, I bet you would have made time to see it.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, again, everybody I've talked to today, and they're also all people from the music business, if they weren't there, they didn't watch it.
Right.
Which I just think is...
I know lots of people who went, and lots of friends and in my people I know in my former capacities that
Live Nation people.
Yeah, that went and whatnot.
I didn't mention that either when I was going over your list of what you've done. Because
I'll stop interviewing you. You could. I better let you do your thing here. I'm taking over your.
The McLachlan trial would have been the late 90s, so that's when you and I would have first met.
Yeah,
because I have some recollection of meeting you through, I think, Natasha Dupre.
Right. That okay, and
remember when she was living with Laura?
Yes.
And there was a guy living there too, and they lived in a house off of Cambie.
Cambie and 17th.
And that's exactly where, and I seem to have a recollection of seeing
Maybe
you
I met
at that house, maybe a party or maybe
right.
Yeah,
because we dated in the 92, 93 or whatever.
You and I dated?
No, she and I dated.
Oh.
Yeah, Natasha.
I got confused there for a second.
Yeah.
Did you and I date? My memory is
we
really.
might have, yeah.
Okay.
We were in the war together. Strange things happened. Yeah.
Okay. So we've known each other something like I think it's fair to say over a quarter of a century.
Yeah. Yeah. Easy. Oh, for sure.
Even though we don't, in some ways, know each other that well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've known you since I would have thought mid-90s. I would have.
Okay. But
I just remember that significant conversation with you outside at the Dominion building. It being kind of the first time I talked to you at length, aside from, hey, how's it going? And
certainly at that point in time, I thought of you as a musician first and foremost.
Yes.
You were in
that's what I was doing.
the band that wore dresses.
I was in the Real Mackenzies. I was an original member.
I know they're killed, so I'm not being.
Yes, I was an original member of the Real Mackenzies, which I joined in the summer of 1992.
92?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I was an original member. There was I walked into the Railway Club one night and see a guy at the door, and I say, hey man, I met you at a party a couple months ago, and I was goofing around pretending to do an operation on a chicken in the kitchen to sort of entertain, and you jumped in. This was Paul McKenzie, and right around the corner shows up Tony Baloney, and he says, Paul, what are we going to do on the weekend? We got to get this thing together. And Paul turns to me and says, Aaron, what do you play again? And I said, I played bass. I had a bass, but I didn't really play it that well.
Yeah.
But I had the balls enough to say, yes, I did. So Tony looked at me and said, what band you played in? And I just made one up on the spot. I said, I played in Endangered Feces.
Yeah. Nice.
And I just because I thought it was a good name, but I wanted to use for a band one day. So I get invited to rehearsal and sort of plonk my way through. And I said, what's this for? And he said, well, we're playing the Commodore on Saturday. And so this is my first. So I kind of ran away with the circus.
How did they get a Commodore gig that early?
It was Budstock 1992. So it was kind of the festival of fuck bands that had been put together for this thing.
Gotcha.
But I showed up and I couldn't play that well, but I was a good guy on the mic. I sort of silenced a couple of hecklers with some jokes, and I could talk. And so they eventually got Rich Prisk to play bass, and I moved over to Irish Whistle, which I had played for years, and that was the one thing I could play. I should have said I played that, although bagpipes probably would have been more helpful. But I ended up kind of running. I met everybody that night. I remember seeing Zippy Pinhead and all these other people from the sort of Vancouver scene, and got introduced overnight. And these two girls wanted to take me home, and I thought, this is the job for me.
Yes,
this is perfect. So I ended up touring with those guys, and I left in probably 97, 98 when the Atlantic deal kind of fell through.
They almost got signed to Atlantic?
We almost got signed to Atlantic.
Who were you working with? Like, was there a lawyer? Was there a manager? Was there... I know it's a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, Jerry Barrett was kind of acting as an intermediary for us and giving us some advice.
Who's he?
Jerry Barrett is one of the heads of global touring at Live Nation now, but at the time he was working for Brockham.
I remember
way back when.
Yeah.
Tim Summer from Atlantic Records I
remember Tim.
Tim's a pal today still, but he had
he signed Hootie and the Blowfish.
He signed Hootie and the Blowfish. That was his big thing, and I think the points that he made off that keeps.
And then he had brain cancer, but he was fine.
Oh, I didn't know he had that.
Boy, I hope I'm not getting that one wrong.
Whoops. Are you sure he did?
I thought he did, but it was sort of let me rephrase that. He had a tumor.
Oh.
But it was not cancer. Like a benign brain tumor, which was operated on, and he's fine.
A
long time ago.
I'll have to ask him about that, because either I've forgotten that.
Tim, if I'm wrong about that,
Tim, if you
God help me. Yes.
You chime in here, please. Because he's on. Anyway.
Well, your pals, call him.
Yeah.
Let's get that.
Give me a phone here. I did call him on his birthday, where I did every once in a while I phone him up and I do a George Takei impression.
Oh, nice.
For him and wish him happy birthday. But anyway, that kind of went south, and then I ended up touring. I ended up working with No Means No for a couple of years as a tour manager.
So you know Laurie Mercer?
Yes.
Do you know Laurie runs a cafe on Main Street?
That's right now.
Right by my house.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, sometimes I stop in.
Yeah, I haven't been up there yet. I got to go up and see him.
It's busy. He's doing well.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got the itch to play again, and I started playing with the Town Pants and Bocephus King. And
I had those. I did my deep dive. I had forgotten the Bocephus King one.
Yeah.
I remember him.
Yes.
What was his real name?
Jamie Perry.
Right.
Yeah.
And he had a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. It felt like he was sort of going to be the next big thing.
And was Weipert involved in that?
Made some great records.
Wasn't Frank Weipert involved with him?
Might have been. I can't remember now. Kate Waddy, Tonic Records, and people like that were. But he was on the cover of The Straight, and he was making some. He made some great albums.
Yeah.
Then I'm on a couple of those records in the Band of Doom that he had. I had been writing through that period. I'd probably been writing. I've sort of moved out of songwriting into trying to writing articles, and I got interested in Vancouver history around 2001. Born and raised here, but when you grow up here, you don't immediately appreciate your own surroundings.
No,
maybe.
nor have a historical sense of it.
Yeah. And I sort of began to get interested because every time I took off on tour, I would come home and I'd see the changes that, the bookstore would turn into a pizza place, and it never goes the other way around. And the pizza place never becomes a bookstore.
Right.
It's always the other way around. But I began to sort of notice when I would take off on tour, because we would leave for long 4 or 5 months on the road, because we did 2 months in Europe and 2 months in the States. And then, I would come back and I noticed the changes that had happened, especially through the 90s in Vancouver, especially downtown.
Yeah.
Vancouver was changing quite a bit. And I started to write for the...
Except the Penthouse, which never...
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that, yeah.
But I began writing for the Vancouver Courier and some other things and stuff like that. And it was just a fun way that wasn't driving 8 hours to do a sound check. It was something I could do on my own. And I always felt a little bit more natural at skilled or able, I'm not sure what the right word is, for writing prose than songs. Songs were I had to study to do that. Or I had to, how does that hook go? And try and copy it, or turn around, or steal little bits to make my own thing, or turn, So writing, and that began to take off. The writing began to take off in the sense that I felt like I could, a lot of the other people that were involved in some of the writing that I was doing, which was centering around the history of the city, were older folks. And I thought, I'm probably one of the younger cats involved doing this, and anytime.
Yeah, it's usually old farts who are like, I remember the time this city was so much better in 1960, whatever the hell.
That's it. But my friends and I, Mark Chalambis, Rod Bruno, people like that, when we would get together, sometimes we'd stop and catch ourselves thinking, God, we're talking like 80-year-old men, because we're talking about the town pump. We're talking about the Starfish Room. We're talking about all these old clubs that used to be around. And that was always an interest to me, Vancouver entertainment history in that sense. So I think it sort of began to percolate that eventually I'd written an article about the Penthouse nightclub in about maybe 2007, 2008. And Danny Filipponi over at the Penthouse thought, and the family I heard thought that it was one of the best articles they'd ever read about the Penthouse, because the family's gone through so much, being sort of typecast as the Sopranos of Vancouver and the murder of Joe and Joe Filipponi.
And I should, sorry to interject, but I should say probably at this point, Danny Filipponi, who he's talking about, who's the owner of the Penthouse, was also my best friend in elementary school.
Yes, this is the
so Aaron
connection.
And I have this interesting other connection.
So he told me, he said, one day we're going to do a book and you're going to be the guy to write. And I thought, well, that's funny. And he would call me every once in a while. He had met with a publisher, or something would start to proceed, then it died on the vine. And then I remember January 2012, he called me up and he said, listen, I just talked to these guys at Arsenal Press. Call them, tell them who you are. I just told them, and I said, Danny, I'm not like a Fuller Brush man that goes door to door and sort of, but he had been sort of acting as my literary agent, oddly enough, for a while. And I went down there and talked to them, and I said, it was originally the book, which turned into to be Liquor, Lust, and the Law, the history of the Penthouse, was just going to be a picture book of the photographs they have of all the stars and athletes and who's who and people that were that came down there over the years that now hang on the walls of the club today. And I said, well, I had done the last interviews with a lot of people, with his father, Ross. My father was a lawyer for the Filipponi family, oddly enough. So when I came home and had told him I'm working on this Penthouse thing, he was like, well, I used to go down there. I knew Ross and those guys, so when I was interviewing Danny's dad and I said I was George Chapman's kid, I think he opened up a little bit more. Well, this is my lawyer's son. There's some attorney-client privilege here.
Yeah, because he wasn't what I would call a talker.
No.
Ross was a very restrained, you couldn't get much out of a, Johnny boy, how you doing?
Yeah.
That was about all I ever got.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you had to open him up, but I had researched things a lot. So when I dropped a name to him, he was impressed that I knew some of these cases. So I came in. Anyway, make a long story short, that was my first book, and I got that book deal in, I guess, the spring of 2012 with the idea that it would be released that December. I was supposed to go on tour with the Town Pants through the States that year. And I told the guys, look, I got a book deal. I don't think I can, I'm going to meet you halfway through the tour, I think. I don't think it's going to take me that long to do it.
How'd that go over?
Didn't work at all. It took me all summer spring and summer to write it. You know, like.
I mean, how'd it go with the band? Like, were they?
Well,
okay, that sounds good. You're fired. No,
yeah, they were disappointed. I think.
Anybody I know in that band? I'm trying to remember.
Dave and Dwayne Keogh were the two brothers in the band. You
remember
met them when we came down to your office one time.
Oh, okay.
But they were guys from Ottawa. They weren't necessarily part of the scene here.
Oh, then I would have disregarded them completely.
There you go, completely. Yeah, yes. But it was interesting because it took longer than and I thought they were good. They realized that it was an opportunity for me. It would have been Dwayne, who is an actor now and was an actor then. It would have been like if he got a TV series for a bit, that he had to step away for a bit. I don't think they thought I wouldn't come back at all, which is what it ended up happening. But the last year of me touring, when I was 21 with Earl Mackenzie's, anything was fascinating to me. I loved it. We could be in a parking lot in Hollywood. We could be in somewhere in
it's just the
Texas.
Experience.
It was like I say, running away with the circus, and it was a great thing. And even when I was 32, I enjoyed it. By 42, I was I was thinking, I don't know if I'm not sure how much longer I was going to do this, or I thought, unless it suddenly takes off or something, but it was a good living. I was paying my bills. I didn't have another job. I was working full-time musician, which a lot of people can't say, that I thought it was an unfortunate spot. But around that time, which I guess would have been around that age, I was sort of noticing I was kind of getting a bit crabbier. I wasn't liking it as much. I remember when first few bands I ever went and saw at the Town Pump or the Commodore and stuff like that, one of those 5 bands for $5 days where you just saw some local bands. You'd watch a band, you'd think, that guy, he doesn't want to be there. You could just tell that he'd probably been playing there for a while, but he wasn't looking like he was enjoying it. I thought, God forbid I ever become one of those people.
Yeah.
I need to step off and let somebody else have a turn, and I had done it for 20 years or more, so the book was suddenly another shingle to hang out. And I thought, if this would be an opportunity, if I got this right, it could lead to a whole other career.
Which is exactly what
happened. Yeah. Because after that, I did the Commodore book. After that, I did The Last Gang in Town.
I'm quoted in the Commodore book.
Yes, you are. Yeah. And I quoted you in an old Kerrisdale Arena article that I wrote.
I was going to I actually had Kerrisdale Arena written down here. I want to go in order.
You've been in the Commodore book, and you also appear in Vancouver After Dark, my second to last.
About my porn career.
About your adult entertainment career. Yes, yeah, which was, what they say about...
Short-lived.
You know what they say about actors
what a ride.
Actors who work in those films.
What?
There's no such thing as a small part.
Thank you.
Yeah, a little bit of dad joke.
Okay, so you've touched on so many things I want to ask you about. So one thing I was curious about was, did you know I started that Decades imprint here? We're about putting out bands from the 90s.
Yes.
And
I remember talking about that.
I was thinking, how interesting in a way. Aaron's books in their own way to me mirror what I'm doing there. I know my motivation. I'm curious about yours. Is it some sense that, because I know with Decades, I sometimes feel like if I don't document this, nobody's going to document this. Is there a bit of that where you're like, shit, it's not just that it matters to me, but it matters.
Yes.
And I want that to be there in posterity. Like I want people to be able to read about the Penthouse or.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially with some elements of the Commodore book, although that book sort of looks at a lot of the big concepts people would remember and benchmark moments, but even more so with Vancouver After Dark, which is a lot more of a forgotten history. I purposely probably put some bands in there that I thought have never, and people that have never got the attention they deserved or were real pillars of this town when I was coming up, that I thought deserved a little bit of spotlight, a little bit of focus, and were the connective tissue in some of the DNA for a lot of bands that came out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's interesting that you said you found writing prose in some ways easier than writing music, which, I mean, it's funny. That Billboard article I wrote, it's the first time I've ever really tried something like that. And when they asked me, it was intimidating. I was like, well, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we think you can, what an interesting process. And I don't know I'm sure everybody's different, just like everybody's different how they write songs. But for me, it was probably akin to, in my mind at least, sculpting. in the
Yeah.
sense that I tipped my head over and all this stuff came flying out of it. But then it was an editing job. And it really was more about the editing. That
the
I had
second-
no problem spewing out the
Yeah.
information.
It's the second draft.
But then
for you.
you're chipping away, you're chipping away, you're chipping away. And before you know it, it's like, oh shit, now I've got something that's kind of coherent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now writing, just about finished my second article. And it was
Cool.
a different process this time.
Right.
Once you've been through it once, you sort of learn it a bit.
And that changes every time. I remember I was in Europe with traveling with Sir Max Hastings, who's a British military historian, writes these big 500-page volumes about various wars and things like this. But he's talked about how he.
Sorry, what were you doing with them?
I was on a World War I battle sites and cemeteries tour with him.
You're not like a groupie of this guy.
A little bit. He was a Falklands War correspondent, and I had read his
interesting.
book, and I was always sort of fascinated.
Yeah,
by
yeah,
him as a historian.
interesting.
And he's a conservative. We've got nothing in common politically or personally or like that. But he was an enjoyable guy to travel with, and there was a little group of us in Ypres in Belgium and in
Yeah,
France,
yeah.
on this thing. But he talked about one of the things I talked about with him at dinner one night was, well, it's sort of the challenge of the empty page in the beginning, and no matter how many articles you've written or how many books you've done, in the beginning it's just that empty page, and how do you start? And oddly enough, it doesn't get any easier. It does. You'd think after after I did my last book, I thought, well, I've done this.
You're still
5
just
times
staring
before.
at a blank page.
At the beginning, you're still, and with Last Gang in Town, I knew what the first sentence was going to be, and I knew what the last sentence was going to be, and it was just a matter of getting the middle in.
That's funny. I was similar on this article where I knew how I was going to start it and end it.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of, if you get that way in, I get invited. I find it funny because I get invited to journalism and creative writing classes that friends of mine who are teachers call me in as an author to talk to the kids, and I try and impart some lessons that I think I've learned, that if you get held up on something, just drop that and just move. If you know what the next thing is, just move on to that, because by the time you finish that, you'll look back and think, oh, I know how to connect the two now. And suddenly you got to keep the momentum going.
yeah.
That the toughest thing with writing is just sort of, because you can sit, all writers will tell you, well, I was going to sit down and start the book today, but thought I'd clean the kitchen. I got to get that clean because it's annoying me, and you don't end up doing anything. The procrastination that can happen.
I was going to do it today, but then a next door neighbor was painting his house. I mean, what an opportunity to see paint dry. I don't get that opportunity all the time. And
Yeah, so you hear those stories all the time. A friend of mine said, I was going to offer a cleaning service for writers, just to say, go over to their place and clean up. So you start working on the book, and we'll take care of this while you
have no excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that daily momentum is what's key, I think, when you're doing, whether it's a short form article or a book of a few hundred pages. It always feels that there's something sort of similar.
Well, there's things in all those books that always have resonated with me because, of course, like you, I grew up here and I love this place.
And my books are meant for people who are in Vancouver. I mean,
Right.
I do quite well with them, but all the sales. I mean, again, I think the Commodore book sold a little bit in Europe, oddly enough, but all my sales are kind of, as soon as you see you're now leaving Vancouver, they kind of drop off a little bit. So I'm a bigger, not a big fish. I'm a little sort of salmon running around in a smaller
Vancouver.
pond.
Yeah.
But they're meant for people who are here, because I remember seeing reading a Premiere article with Martin Scorsese and Harvey Keitel, and they were talking about, well, we just started making movies about where we lived, and to us, we could have been in Pittsburgh, or we could have been in Des Moines, or we could have been anywhere. We would have done the same thing. It just happened to be in New York, this international city, so it got more exposure. But Vancouver to me was always as interesting as any other place, if not more so, because the history is quite unique here. That's what sort of inspired me. I think it spurred my imagination on to at least try and take a stab.
I
at
know
writing.
with the Decades Project, part of my thought process was that, unlike, say, Toronto, where everybody's so aware of the musical history there. Oh, the music scene in the Queen Street music scene in I mean, whatever it is. Vancouver's not as self-reflective, I find.
Yeah.
Now that might just be in music.
And though it has every right to be, we get a little bit with the punk thing that people love coming back to that. But I think what the Decades thing is interesting, especially with the 90s, that era, that's not an era that gets talked about near as much as it should.
Right.
There was some great, it kind of gets forgotten because, there was sort of hip hop and boy bands. There was lots of stuff going on.
Lots of stuff.
And there was lots of great stuff that I thought for sure. I remember being in the town pump and thinking, all my friends here are going to be on cover of Spin magazine, surely, because there's so much good stuff happening here in town. And some people like Biff Naked or people like that went on to, sort of bigger things or became nationally known. But there were lots of other good bands like Sex with Nixon and
there's so many great stories.
So many great.
What about copyright?
And
what about that story?
Well, there you go.
Which I'm probably going to write a Billboard thing about.
Yeah.
About how major labels refuse to let people put out records that they don't want to put out.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to buy that copyright album from Interscope for forever.
Which, if you have a copy of it, and
I do in my office.
Yeah, I got
it's even got the delete stamp in it because I believe it was deleted the day it came out.
Yeah.
So,
and there's there's great stuff on there, and I mean the whole copyright story is. I mean, I remember talking to Tom Anselmi, and he wanted me to write a book about. He sort of saying, "Would you be interested in doing a book on copyright?" And I said I would.
We're doing new music with Tom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's
good.
We just recorded something.
Oh, excellent. Oh,
and it's great.
I'm glad to hear
weird
that.
and scary. And
everything
he is.
Everything he is. Yeah.
Which is really great.
He's a creative guy, and I'm pleased to hear that because especially out of the ashes of what the copyright reunion sort of.
Or do you mean the slow or what?
Oh, pardon me, slow. Excuse me. The ashes of the slow reunion, because I thought, well, that kind of sort of ended. If it ended the wrong way the first time, it ended the wrong way the second time, to my mind.
With less collateral damage, I guess, the second time, but.
Well,
but a bit of collateral damage.
Yeah, I mean, Zippy's gone.
Yeah.
And I think his. And I think their hopes were accelerated unnecessarily. I think maybe, not they got caught up in the idea that this could be something again, and it just didn't transpire. That
didn't catch fire.
Yeah, which is it showed every reason that it could in the beginning, so I can understand why. But it was sort of sad that it.
I'm having
and some of those songs the new songs they did, Polaroid Queen and stuff like this never got
really
released.
Good.
Were really good. Yeah, for those of you who heard
I
the
heard
stuff.
all of it.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's a whole other story. We could spend a whole.
It's a whole other story. But there's things you touch upon in all the books that I wanted to just briefly tell. What you mentioned it earlier, Kerrisdale Arena. So you grew up in Kerrisdale.
I grew up about 4 blocks away from the Kerrisdale Arena.
Okay, and I played hockey at the Kerrisdale Arena.
Right.
That was a big part of my youth.
Yeah.
Playing hockey and then going to McDonald's right next door.
Yes.
Which that McDonald's to this day is still a hangout.
Yeah.
My kid hung out there throughout high school.
Yeah,
like, what?
I did too.
Yeah.
Because I went to Point Grey later. I went to Koshena Elementary and then to Point Grey. So my whole world
was that neighborhood.
Was that immediate 5 or 6 blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, which is an interesting part of Vancouver in a lot of ways, and not interesting in others. But well,
that's what we're told. But as soon as you sort of dig in, do you think what the Clash played the Kerrisdale Arena? My God,
I was going to talk
Peter
about
Tosh
that.
played the Kerrisdale Arena.
So Kerrisdale Arena used to have shows.
Yes.
And that's something you wrote about.
Yes. Early 80s, about 81 to 83.
And I went to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I went to a bunch of them. There's 2 that I went to, one that I lie and say I was at, and I never actually was. So I was at Peter Tosh and Jimmy Cliff.
Okay, that's the one I knew.
I will never forget it to this day. And how long ago was that? Jesus Christ, 50 years ago?
Yeah,
40 years ago?
82, 81, 82. Around then. Yeah.
And that image of Peter Tosh, who was dressed almost like a mummy. He was
white.
in white.
Yeah.
But almost like a mummy, like loose, sort of, and tall and lanky.
There's photos of it. Yeah, in the article.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jimmy Cliff was good too, but Peter Tosh was other fucking worldly.
That's what I heard.
So good.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why, because I wasn't a fan then, and I'm certainly not a fan now, but I saw Split Ends there.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Which was like, why did I even, probably somebody had an extra ticket.
I remember cycling up to the marquee at the Kerrisdale Arena, and it said Split Ends.
With the Z.
And I was 11 or 12, so I was just like, they spelled it wrong, like
idiots,
smart aleck.
Yeah.
Unimpressed, steered my bike away, but
I have no memory in the same way that I have the Peter Tosh concert could have been yesterday for how vivid it is in my brain.
Yeah.
I remember nothing of Split Ends, nothing.
Right.
I became a big fan of Crowded House, which of course the brother was, but Neil Finn or whatever. But I remember very little. The Clash, from time to time, I will lie and say I was
you were there for it.
But there's a bunch of concerts I lie about. I don't know about you, but I lie about Nirvana at the Town Pump.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, I was not there.
Right. Yeah.
But once in a while,
you gotta say
I can't resist.
Yeah.
Hey, were you at that? course I was there. And you know, the other one I like about is, and then I always say I'm lying. Like I never let it sit is, Radiohead at the, Starfish Room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure.
Which I so wasn't there.
I will confess, a couple times I got into some conversation with somebody from outside of Vancouver, and it was a touring, I can't remember, some actor was at the Commodore, and they wanted to know, did you see that show? I read about it, and I didn't want to disappoint the guy. So
Yes.
I said, oh yeah, it was great. You know, like it was terrific.
I saw enough great shows that I probably shouldn't have that I can't.
Likewise, yeah.
Like I saw the Talking Heads at the Commodore.
Wow.
I saw Joe Jackson at the Commodore.
78 Talking Heads, yeah.
Big Suits. It was whatever tour that was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That would have been the second time then. See, we write the Commodore book, you know, remember all these dates and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw Joe Jackson at the Commodore.
Wow.
And that's right in the first album. I was underage, so I had a fake ID. And it was the second show I saw there. The first one was Graham Parker at the Commodore.
I heard that was a great show.
Great show, and I was so into it.
And I've asked people what was great about it.
I mean, for me, it was a moment in time. I mean,
Yeah.
that would have been the second record. Shit, I wish I could remember that.
Yeah.
But I was just really into it. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, it was just when I was first really getting into music that was contemporary. Like my big band in high school is The Who.
Yeah.
And I saw them in 1980
Right.
at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. But Graham Parker was one of the first contemporary acts I got into.
Did you go with Danny Filipponi to see The Who? Because he's a big Who fan.
No, but he I'm pretty sure he was there. He was in a cover band in high school.
Oh, okay.
That they used to sing Who songs.
Oh, wow.
So
See, I did not know that. I got to ask him.
With Stephen Wright. Try to remember that.
We went and saw The Who last time they were in town, or pardon me, the time before that, he and I went.
I got to see them. I was lucky. Matthew Good opened up for the Quadrophenia
right.
show.
I remember that.
And we got to meet them backstage. And Dave Genn was on my podcast, and we joked about this, but
Yeah.
that's where Dave's. So he's like, "Do you want to meet The Who?" I'm like, "Do I want to meet The Who? They're my favorite fucking band."
Yeah.
So we're lined up, and out come the three.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I'm meeting Pete Townsend.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I'm meeting Roger Daltrey.
Yeah.
I've never been the biggest Daltrey fan, but Townsend's ever. I mean, what a writer. My
Oh my
God,
gosh.
what a great writer.
Yeah.
And so Pete Townsend, nice to meet you. And Genn leans over and whispers in my ear, "Give me your card." Pete, by the way, I'm an entertainment lawyer with no experience. If you ever, it's like, give me my card.
More connections here because Dave Genn is an old roommate of mine, or I was an old roommate of his.
Right. So you've known Dave.
Yeah,
as
I've
long
known
as
Dave
Dave even longer than you've known me.
95. Well, around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then
I finished at UBC and then moved out of my folks' place in Kerrisdale within those couple of years. But I moved into a house that Gord Knights from the Town Pump and Dave Genn had a 10th in Alberta. This is all inside baseball that we don't need to get into.
Yeah. Okay.
But, anyway, but it shows the interconnectedness of we know a lot of people.
We sure do.
Yeah.
And then Penthouse briefly. It's funny. I'm not a strip club guy. Not my idea of a good time.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't judge people who like it. I don't care. But I remember the Fraser Arms.
Yes.
Is that even around?
No.
Okay. So that was a strip club / bar.
Yeah.
In a funny part of Vancouver that is
on the way out to the airport.
It's not even a part of Vancouver. It's just this weird end of Granville Street sort of thing. And I went to a birthday party there once, and it was a woman's birthday party, so they had a male stripper.
Wow.
Oh, and the women are having a gas. They're giggling
Hooting
and running up and slipping bills in the guy's underwear. And it's just like, that is not the vibe at the Penthouse or Brandy's. That is more the vibe of lions looking at a gazelle.
Yes.
There's a bit of a... And I'm just
oftentimes.
Listen, I'm a heterosexual man. I'm not, but you know what? I don't get it. Okay, so you're gonna sit there, get worked up, and then what? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Like, what do you? But the Penthouse, here's the things I was gonna say about the Penthouse. When we were kids, when I was in grade 6 or 7, and I was best friends with Danny, we would go to a movie on the Capitol 6 on Sunday.
Yeah,
and then we'd go to the Penthouse because it was closed.
Right.
And for people who don't know this, Danny's grandmother lived in that house. And that house is still there.
Yes.
To this day, you go to the Penthouse and people sometimes don't even notice it. There's the club. And then there's this funny little fucking house.
Yeah.
Which is like the land preserved in time.
Yeah. Built in 1898. That house.
And it looked like you'd go in there
Yeah.
on a Sunday and it was like, holy, where am I? Like,
Yeah.
I'd just be like, what the fuck? But we would swing around on the stripper pole.
Right.
And then they also had a vending machine that had sexy toys.
Right.
So we would always get
novelties, marital aids,
those
they
little
call them
dolls
back in
that
the day.
would, like fucking dolls, those plastic little. So like we'd go there and hang out on a Sunday.
Wow.
But of course, I also remember when the criminal trial happened.
Right, 83.
It was so horrible for them. It was so brutal. It was at the time until
the criminal trial. Yes, in 77 to
for
79.
living off the avails of prostitution.
Yeah.
And bribery, I believe.
That was at the end of it. Yeah.
And so they were acquitted, in fairness.
Yes.
But Jesus Christ, I
They
mean,
got
that was
put through the ringer.
2 years of hell. And listen, I don't know the facts. I don't know the details. It's not really,
It's in the book if you want to read.
But just from a pure human perspective, it was horrid. And I remember the mood around Danny's house and jeez,
they got put through the ringer. They got put through the ringer.
Put through the ringer. Then when they won, they bought a new Cocker Spaniel and his dad named it Jakes after the lawyer.
After Roy Jakes. Who had prosecuted him, which I thought was great. Yeah. And Ross told me he loved yelling at that dog.
Jakes. Yeah, Danny's dad was interesting. I'd always see him jogging. He was a big jogger, man.
Yeah.
He would, and I'd see him playing racquetball.
He was a big
JCC.
He was a big seniors racquetball guy.
Big seniors racquetball guy.
Yeah, huge.
So it's just funny that it's funny how we both, how the Penthouse now has somehow occupied.
You saw him a lot then. I see him a lot now.
And you see him a lot now.
Yeah.
And I see him once in a while. Like I did your chat room.
The chat room, yes, at
recently,
Tyrant Studios. Yeah. I was very happy to have you on that podcast.
And then the other thing you wrote about, which really resonated with me, was the gang book.
Oh,
because I grew up in Riley Park.
Right.
And there was
the
notorious Riley Park gang.
Yeah.
Which to this day, I mean, according to your book, it did in fact exist. There was a real thing.
Yes.
But it was almost like the boogeyman.
Yes, that's exactly what I
and people would talk about it like Vancouver was funny then. I don't know, maybe it's still that way, but I remember like when I went to Eric Hamber Secondary,
right,
which was right in this, center of Oak Ridge, basically.
Yeah.
And there'd always be like, the Riley Park gang is going to be coming by the school. Like it was almost like this. I don't think I ever saw anybody from the Riley Park gang ever.
Yeah.
And I played hockey at Riley Park. I even had the hockey coat, Riley Park. And sometimes people make a joke, oh, are you part of the Riley Park gang? But it evoked a real fear. And to this day, I like, what the fuck was that?
That Park gang era, which started in arguably the 1950s, but came to fruition in the 60s and then in the 70s, held a legacy over East Vancouver for the better part of 30 years. Even in the 1980s, if you read some of the criminal reports in journalism at the time, they were still attributing Clark Park gang along with Los Diablos and other sort of Viet Ching gangs and stuff like that. That history of gangs in Vancouver I was shocked that no one had really ever written about it before. So oddly enough, that book, The Last Gang in Town, is now sort of in the course syllabus at the Vancouver Gang Squad because of so many of the people from those years then went through those sort of teenage street gang stuff and whatnot, but are now in many cases the head of the Hells Angels or the head of the senior members of criminal organizations. They started in those years.
Right. And there's so much about this that's interesting to me. I mean, one of them is, I've never gone to a high school reunion. I don't know if you have.
Right. I have, yes.
Just not my idea. I hated high school. I was miserable. To me, it's like, why would I want to celebrate something that to me it would almost be like, hey, we're going to have an anniversary for your hernia surgery. Well, you know what? That was unpleasant. I don't really feel the need to revisit it again. I've never gone. But the last one, they really wanted me to go. And the committee was like, we really want you to go. We really want you to go. I was like, why? What do you give a fuck about? Well, they finally said, well, you're kind of the most famous person from our class.
I got that same thing. Yeah.
And I said, well, no. Ron Lysing's the most famous person from my class. Does that name ring a bell?
I don't know.
Hell's Angel.
Oh, okay.
Went to Eric Hamper.
Right.
Graduated in my class.
West Side or Hell's Angel. That's rare.
And he may have been Riley Park gang.
Right.
Because just now when you said some of them graduated, I don't know that.
They did. It was the sort of the AAA league for a lot of when the Satan's Angels came in 1983 and later the Hell's Angels. And the whole nature of young offender crime changed. And a lot of those people were now getting older and getting adopted into sort of the larger gangs, which are more concerned with, drug trafficking and stuff like that. It wasn't, assaults
and he was
and home
convicted
invasion.
of some major drug trafficking thing. He spent a lot of time in jail.
Yeah.
He recently, I think last year, was shot at in Surrey.
Wow.
Like, so it's pretty.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, a lot of the elder statesmen of that world are still around. I mean, a lot of them are dead.
I think the response was, yeah, maybe he's more famous, but I don't think
Yeah, we
he's
don't-
good. They're not going to give him a day pass for.
Yeah, you're easier to get at.
I didn't go. I was like, no,
Yeah.
no, not interested. Sorry. But it's just funny, the Riley Park gang thing. Because like Eric Canberra was a funny school that way because it encompassed Shaughnessy,
Yeah,
which is one
Yes.
of the richest parts of Vancouver.
yeah,
And it encompassed the Main Street projects.
right.
So it sort of had a weird mixed
Yeah.
bag of people.
Yeah.
And then, sort of lower middle class people like
It was
me.
interesting when that book came out because it came out about Christmas of 2016, 2017, something, I think, around that year. Anyway, I got a call from a lot of the people that were on the gang squad at that time, the H squad, the heavy squad, which was tasked to go after the Clark Park gang. This was the first time they'd talked about it ever and I had some good relations with some retired Vancouver Police Department people that they opened up to me for the first time about it. I had to change a couple names, but and when the book came out that Christmas, Brian Honeyborn, one of the police officers, sort of central police officers in the book that's involved in the officer-involved shooting that happened, said, geez, Aaron, I'm getting calls from all these other retired guys I haven't heard from years who got the book for Christmas and they love it. And I thought, well, that's good. I'm glad that I wasn't sure because I tried to play it down the middle. I didn't really tip my hand either way and around Boxing Day, I got a call from, Danny Mouse Williamson, one of the Clark Parkers, say, hey, Aaron, every Hell's Angel and every biker in Vancouver got your book for Christmas, and they're all calling me how they love it. So I was pleased that I somehow got the Titanic through the iceberg field on that one because I was worried.
You might piss off the wrong people.
Yeah, piss off the wrong people. Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of those people grew up together, and I did a presentation at the Vancouver Museum where I invited some H Squad people out and some they didn't want to be identified, and some old Clark Parkers. And I brought the old Clark Parkers up on stage, and a friend of mine, his dad, was on the H Squad, and he turned to his son when he saw the Clark Parkers up there. He said, I wouldn't mind going up and popping them one more time just for, and he's in his 80s now, so some of those attitudes still run,
Interesting.
hard today,
Yeah.
And other times, another police officer, Grant McDonald, who a friend of mine who's on the Penthouse, Secrets of the Penthouse tours, he joins us, and Danny always jokes he used to arrest my dad back in the day. He comes out and he was shaking hands and talking to them, especially because most of these guys moved on with their lives, or in particular, sort of made successes themselves. Their criminal behavior after being in prison for a few years, they got it, and otherwise, a lot of them are dead, or a lot of them overdosed, or were murdered, or killed. So it's interesting. So they were sort of shaking, and after a while, you couldn't really tell who was the old gang member and who was the old cop, because they're all East Van people. They all kind of grew up side by side from one another. Maybe they're a couple of years apart in age, but it's interesting to see them
kind of different sides of the same
it's
coin
like
in a weird
that old
way.
cartoon with the sheepdog and the wolf or whatever that's seeing each other. How are you, Harry? You doing good? Oh, that's good to see. Yeah. How are the kids? Yeah,
What cartoon was that? Or they check in and check out every
yeah,
day?
exactly. Yeah, well, I can't remember what they. But yeah, it was a good one.
Great. I forgot about that. That's pretty funny. Okay. Natasha Dupre.
Yes.
Discuss. I'm kidding.
Oh,
I mean, I
love her to bits. She's great. She's made such a success of herself.
Did you date?
Yes, we did. Yeah, for about maybe 6-8 months or something like that. And
maybe that's when I first met you. It's weird how that is still.
She had purple hair then.
She sure did.
Yeah. And she got a haircut, and she gave me a bag of it. And I was going through an old
of her
box
purple hair.
Yeah, and I found the bag of I still have it, like 30 years after we dated or 30 years. Oh my God.
Yeah, she's done well.
Yeah, but she's great. Yeah, and I still talk to her once in a while. And
her and I had a little bit of a falling out, and then we kissed and made up, which I'm really, really happy about.
Good. Life's too short.
Life's too short for that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So I love her, and I'm so happy that we're sort of on good terms again. And then we talked a little bit about the chat room, but I always like to give people a chance to promote some stuff.
Sure.
So that's a blog/radio show.
It's a radio show that airs on Sportsnet 6:50 a.m. It appears on once a month, and then it's available sort of as a podcast, as all things are these days. And we record it at the Penthouse upstairs in the old jazz bar up there.
What are they called again now?
Tyrant Studio.
Thank you.
And they hold gigs there. They have, I just played there with the Hard Rock Miners doing a little St. Patty's thing.
Is that where they're doing the Arkells thing?
Yes, in May. Yeah. And the Arkells wanted to play there by choice because I guess the first time they came through Vancouver, they played the Penthouse on a New Music West show. And they were so surprised when they pulled in. It's like, it's a strip bar. Oh my God. And they had good humor about it.
And Slow played there when they did that.
And Slow did the 10-night stand. And I opened for about 4 of those nights interviewing a dancer on stage.
Oh, weird.
And Tom wanted me to do the whole thing, but I could only get away for about 4 nights.
It's a great place to shoot videos and a great place to, because it reminds you of the Hollywood theater that way. It comes from an era and you can't really recreate that. Like, I'll be sad if they ever knock it down or whatever, because like, boy, oh boy. And I know more than probably I should about all that, but it's such a great place. So we filmed an Armchair Cynics video there.
Oh, okay.
And we filmed a Theory of a Dead Man video.
Oh, I didn't know that. Which video was Theory of a Dead Man video?
Theory of a Dead Man would have been Bad Girlfriend, I think.
Oh, okay.
And
I gotta look
Armchair Cynics was Bang.
Yeah.
It's just sort of interesting.
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
Now we should talk briefly also about your time at Live Nation.
Sure.
When did that start? Like, when did you start working there?
In 2005, the Town Pants, one of the musicians was our main soloist, was a fiddle player, was leaving. And we were going to put the band on sort of blocks for about 4 months as we tried to rehearse and get somebody else up to speed. And this was around the year that the tsunami in Thailand happened. Right. It sort of killed tens of thousands of those people, you know, and they kind of all wandered out in the beach, you know, wondering why the shore had receded. And I suddenly felt like one of those people because I thought, geez, I haven't had a job in years. I don't even know. I'm probably gonna have to get some work or something, because if we're going to be off for 4 or 6 months, you know, rehearsing somebody or auditioning people, I gotta make some money. I gotta figure out something to do here. And I remember Dave Fortune, the old head of production at House of Blues concerts.
Yeah.
Every time, and he had used to tour manage SNFU and things like that. And I knew him when him and Jay Scott had this booking agency, and the Real Mackenzies were a part of that. And I was the responsible guy that always brought the commissions in on Monday morning to get, you know, stuff like that. I was the responsible sober one in the Real Mackenzies in those years. So I remember him always hanging out to me. Hey, I'm always looking for people to do shows. Let me know. And I was in Ottawa and I called him and I said, hey, Dave, I wanted to check in but he goes, call me the day you get back. Not within a few days. They call me the day you get back. And I thought, okay, wow. So I did that. I called him the day I got back. He goes, call me on Wednesday. I got to do a couple of things. But I went in and they were looking for promoter reps, production managers. And this was just before the Olympics, you know, so.
2009.
You know, like that. I think that they were, and this would have been probably about 2007, 2006, 2007. And it was all work that I was familiar with. If you've tour managed bands, if you've been out on the road with bands, you know most of that work already. In fact, it's better if you do, because when you show up in a venue and you don't know who the sound guy is, or you're going to get a meal buyout, or where's the place we're staying, you know, the guy that shows up, I can still remember on Real Mackenzie's tours playing the Ratskeller in Boston, and this guy with a Boston accent like that, he would talk like, he was so great and so nice and was so, hey, we got some food for you next door, this and that. You're going to be staying just down the block right here. That kind of presence makes a huge difference when you've drove 6-7 hours and you're 100%. Just pulling into the city and some guy welcomes you at the loading bay door and says, oh, guys, we're looking forward to having you tonight. You know, it's going to be a great night, you know, whatever. So while the job is a lot of accounting and stuff like that, and working with spreadsheets and working with managing a budget and supervising security or bringing them in, you know, for barricade security, or maybe working with a caterer and handling, you know, you're kind of walking around with a walkie-talkie in a venue most of the time, depending on how big it is. If it's a small venue, you don't need it when you can just yell across the room.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's bigger, you know, so it was a job that I was sort of, I realized after so many years of touring, there's a line in Full Metal Jacket where the guy says with a big machine gun, he goes, as soon as this war is going to end, and that guy's going to go back to regular society, what do you think he's going to do for a job? I felt a little bit like that. These skills that I had acquired, especially over the years, especially, you know, touring with the Real Mackenzies was a very wild, you know, sort of uncontrollable thing at times. Yes. And I was sometimes appointed the spokesman to go in and talk to a label person or something, because they just figured I was better at communicating than you know, some of the drunken rabble that we all kind of were, but I could sort of, assume the position for a second. But it felt like that. I thought all this work that I'd kind of done for years, I guess I can put it in a shoebox and just say, well, that's what I did. But if I can somehow apply it to this new position, and there was lots to learn. There was lots of, House of Blues was just changing into Live Nation at that time. And it got more and more corporate, as all businesses are, as it went along. There were a lot of sort of band people and punk rock people that I worked with. I mean, not so much the accountants or stuff like that, but a lot of even some of the bookers and stuff like that, talent buyers had a past that they were maybe in a band, or they booked a club, or they were booking at university and things like that. So there was certainly a love of music, but there was other people there who I think not necessarily it was just a job to them. They weren't.
It's like major labels too these days.
And that's what it is, and that's to be expected. Not especially what the scene that we came from in those years. It was a lot easier to be a part of that when it was flourishing. Then you can't, just because somebody doesn't have the same history as you do, isn't the way to look at them down or look differently on them. But a lot of people, there were people who were very business oriented, and business administration people as well. But I enjoyed it. I got to work with you see so many shows in a given. I was working 3 or 4 shows a week for the better part of 20 years.
A lot of it was Commodore for you.
I don't know whether it's because I wrote the book about the Commodore, or they just thought.
I just feel like I've seen you there. So,
but I was the regular sort of production promoter rep for Live Nation.
Seeing you at the front door is like a regular thing.
Well, when I first started, they didn't have enough shows for me. They said, hey, they need people at the front door. It's a good way to learn the venue. I thought, learn the venue. I know the venue. I played it 25 times. But it was actually a good way to sort of meet staff and get to know the management and know when it was a good time to ask somebody for something, because everybody's got other roles to fill. So it was Commodore was great. Commodore, it will always be someplace that I left Live Nation in December, about 3-4 months ago, after 20 years. And, but I will always appreciate the Commodore.
Any regret about that?
No, I didn't necessarily. I could see things changing there, and I haven't really talked about this ever before, but it was, I could see things changing, and I could see my position there sort of shifting on the ladder of shows that I thought I had been thinking that probably a change is due here, like for both of us or something, or something. But I still got lots of friends. I miss seeing the crew at the office and stuff like that, or people at the shows. But
I took a Hagenson to a hockey game.
Did you?
Last week?
Oh, good.
I'm doing some business with him now that he's over at Bruce's.
Yeah. And Paul and I went to university together at UBC. When Paul left, felt like I don't want to get too.
Yeah.
But when Paul left, it felt like there was a shift there, and it felt different.
I always used to say, when people ask, what do you think of Live Nation? I was like, well, I fucking hate them.
Yeah.
I said, but, there's 2 people there who I trust, you and Paul.
Well, that's very kind of you. I'm honored to be
feel like
associated in his company.
Honest people there. Because I've had some really, really, really and I'm not going to name names. I'm not, as much as I'd like to, I'm not going to say anybody's name, but let's just say it wasn't anybody in Vancouver.
Right.
And, I've never been disrespected or treated worse than I have by Live Nation.
Used to be in Vancouver, then moved to another office. You know what I'm saying? I might agree with you.
You're getting warm.
Yeah. I might agree with you. There's lots of people there who have a real taste in music and really want to do something special or there's other people that there's other people that thought, is this person
I think the real sign of what
and just churning it out, or could this be dog food to them? I don't know.
But there's also people and I've always said this, and I guess it just comes out so much in the music business, is that I think the real sign of who a person is that if you are in a powerful position and you don't take advantage of it,
right?
That to me says so much more about people. It's like, yeah, I get it. You're the big fish, and if I don't play nicey nice with you, it could have negative. But to then use that and be horrible about it, just like, come on, man. Anyway, whatever.
It's a corporate thing. It's turned very corporate now. I'm
they just had that ruling go against them, I guess, and I don't know what that. I'm still confused.
Oh, the antitrust thing, where they were. They didn't have. They had somebody from on Trump's board didn't they? One of the Live Nation person was, so it felt like the fix was in there a little bit. I don't know anything about it, but I'm glad to have moved on. I got sort of new things to doing after.
We're going to talk about that too.
I'm sad not to see some people there. I'm still friends with them. But there was no, there was no ill will. There was no handing your badge and gun, and
it was just time.
It was just and I knew it was coming, and I was kind of more shocked that I was right. I kind of thought, when they wanted to sit down and they expressed and I was going to express what I was like, well, this is already taken care of then. I'm doing a little bit of work, starting to do a little bit of work for MRG and down at the Vogue, so if I can bring some experience there in a few shows, but I got a couple more books to do, and I got the city council run and things like that.
I want to talk about your political thing, but I had two quick things first.
Yes.
One, just because I thought it was funny. I did do, of course, my research, and I found, believe it or not, the very first What's in Your Fridge in the Georgia Street was me.
Oh.
But you did one super early, too.
Yes.
And I read it.
A long time ago, yeah.
So the person I thought was interesting, because I didn't know you and I had this shared taste, I love Joe Henry.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And nobody even knows, it's Madonna's brother-in-law.
And but an amazing producer, and to me, an even more amazing songwriter and musician. I am a huge Joe Henry fan. I've actually recorded a couple. I was a Playboy off of one of his earlier albums, and I've done it. I did it at Tyrant Studios, actually, with Paul Rigby and Jerry Cook. I'm a huge Joe Henry fan. I think he's amazing.
Yeah, so do I.
Amazing song.
When I saw it, I went, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" Aaron,
pick up Tiny Voices, or pick up his last couple albums have been quite more acoustic, a little more subdued. It didn't have that kind of ethereal production.
You know what song I still listen to all the time?
What's
I have it on tons of my playlists. Is Trampoline.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just such a great song,
record.
Yeah,
so. That whole record's great.
And then the other thing I was going to say was, you and I have something in common that has nothing to do with the music business, nothing to do with Vancouver per se. Do you know what that is?
I'm trying to guess.
You and I have been through a similar experience. We both lost a ton of weight.
Oh, yes.
We both have dropped.
We've talked
tons.
Yeah.
So don't have to go too into that, but how much weight did you lose?
I don't have a scale at home, but it started happening around COVID, and I blame COVID for it. Not that I can't, well, I did get it. I had one weekend where I got it, and it just like having the flu. But being with the job of being working at concerts and working at concert venues, you'd always grab a burger at the show, and then you'd grab a little Chinese noodle on the way home, and then eat that at 4 a.m. And I had not been eating well for a good number of years, and porked up, and I kind of had looked at myself. You catch yourself in the mirror and think, oh, geez, I guess I probably got to slim down here, treat myself a little better. And I turned 50 4 years ago, and I thought, well, I don't think I have another 50 years to go. I should probably treat myself a little better, try to eat just a little better, or do something, like.
So it wasn't a diet. It wasn't.
I changed a few things I was eating. I ended up losing about 60 or 70 pounds.
Yeah, you look like that.
And people who know me in high school or in my 20s said, "Wow, hey, you look great. You look like you used to look," basically. But people who I'd met in probably my later 30s or 40s, who just saw me as a bigger guy, were kind of aghast. And I thought when you're older and you lose weight, people are saying, "Hey, you look great. You look good." Not like you're not sick, are you?
Right.
And you don't have cancer and like that. It's like, and I kind of I don't know. I could get it, I guess, but I don't think I got it now. I mean, I went to the doctor. He said I'm fine. So that kind of put me off a little bit too. I remember thinking for some people, and some people are trying to be, they know that there's no sacred cows with you probably or me, that they can joke about anything and whatnot. But it was a little bit kind of off-putting. But I changed what I was eating. I changed what I was drinking a lot.
Yes.
I don't drink coffee, but I've been drinking a lot of pop
which is deadly.
And as soon as I stopped or even just cut it down to a lot,
makes such a big difference.
It started falling off. My pants started falling, and then my underwear started falling off me. That I dropped so much weight that a lot of my old clothes. My girlfriend at the time was saying, "You got to buy some new clothes. Everything's so baggy."
I had to buy everything new again.
Yeah, and I thought, well, let's have my favorite pair of jeans there. It's like a burlap sack on me now, but it was because of that, but it also because it happened during COVID and when you didn't see anybody for a while.
Yes.
When the gates opened again and I saw people.
Who are you?
Yeah, I remember seeing Jay from Bedouin Sound Clash.
Yeah.
Who I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
And I saw him in Victoria. I tapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, Jay, how you doing, man? Good to see you." And then he kind of looked at me and kind of gave me a dirty look. And I thought, Jesus, did I say something terrible? Did I get drunk at a party and say something? What did I do?
Obnoxious fan?
Yeah, or something. And then he came back over and he said, Aaron, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. And I thought, God, I've worked all these years to be a Z-list celebrity in town.
Yes.
With bands I played in, the books I've written. Now nobody recognizes me. I got to put the weight
again.
Yeah, I got to put the weight back on just so I could be spotted or let into a club without and comped. So. Yeah, that's but and in your case, what
about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was a combination. I got a grip on my diabetes. I have one of those glucometers, which has honestly changed my life.
Right.
Because now I know what everything I put into my body does to me.
Right. Yeah.
And it's surprising. It's often surprising.
Yeah.
So for example, because I never did a diet. I never I have to cut out this or that. You make small choices.
That's it.
Pop is a great example.
Yeah.
Just getting rid of that.
Yeah. I wasn't at home eating kale and doing like that. Didn't go crazy with it.
No.
But just a few. I mean, I started going swimming a bit. I didn't I thought running. I don't want to run around, an idiot. But at least swimming is kind of fun, and you can kind of just float there for a while or swim as hard as you want. So that's about the only extra exercise.
Well, I do 14,000 steps a day.
That's great.
Every single day, without exception. And
just around here.
I'm obsessive about it. Well, what usually, I work 2 shifts. I work during the day.
Right.
Then I go home, see the wife, see the kids, see the
and
dog.
Then you do some late night work.
Well, I always do everything.
I know that about you
because you had emails from me at 4 in the morning.
I know, because I sometimes send you something late at night and the response
I respond right away.
Yeah. I thought, oh wow.
Yeah. No,
I hope I didn't wake you up. Yeah,
no. I work late every single night, but sometimes at night, and I work on a dictaphone.
Nice.
I'll walk the building if I'm like, oh shit, I need to get. I'm 3,000 steps shy.
Yeah.
I'll just dictate as I walk the entire building.
That's great.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get to your most recent chapter.
Yes.
Which is fascinating, as per your pin that you're wearing.
Oh yes.
The OneCity Vancouver pin. So you are running in the next municipal election.
Well, I'm trying to be a candidate.
Oh, I
OneCity.
see.
So
yeah, I know nothing about
this.
the process.
The election in Vancouver municipal election this year is October 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, myself and a number of others are within OneCity, the party of Vancouver. Not OneBC, that had nothing to do with OneBC, with OneCity Vancouver.
What's OneBC?
OneBC
Dallas Brody's
is that real conservative wingnut party, provincial party.
She was my next door neighbor in the Dominion building when I was a criminal lawyer.
Oh, wow. What did she do?
She was a criminal lawyer.
She was a criminal lawyer as well. Wow.
Yeah. But
I don't know. Anyway,
that's an aside.
That's an aside. Anyway, OneCity Vancouver is a party in Vancouver.
Yes.
That's and there's about a dozen of us probably all looking for to be a candidate on the ballot.
Is it a new party?
It's been around for 2 previous elections.
Is there anybody in the current government from OneCity?
Lucy Maloney is on Vancouver City Council right
Gotcha.
now, and she's the one Vancouver City councilor that's OneCity right now. There's a school trustee.
Does Sean Orr have anything to do with this?
He's with COPE.
Oh, okay, and you're OneCity. Okay, you got my vote. As long as it's not Sean Orr, I'm good.
Sean said some things over the years that he's still paying for. Yeah,
as he should.
Yeah. But gosh, he's got a lot of publicity from what Ken Sim.
That was a mistake too.
Boy, oh boy, yeah. I think he'll retain his seat. I think what's gonna happen is my prediction, and why I joined OneCity because they're probably the most sympathetic to my own politics being the main thing. When I announced that I wanted to run, and when I realized that I could run, just after I left Live Nation. I thought, well, I've got some time on my hands now, and I've got some inclination to do it. I kind of always had wanted to run for Vancouver City Council. There was an idea in my mind. I would like to give it a try. I'm going to do it. And I got approached and I talked to some other parties and whatnot, but I don't know if courted is the word or just had confidential talks with them.
You must have relations. That makes it sound like something I didn't mean. You know Peter.
I know Pete Fry very well. Yeah.
And Pete was Peter and Pete's a friend. Digiboy days. We all got our posters done. Yeah.
I certainly know. Yeah, and I went and met with Pete and some other people as well. And Pete, I think he's got a legitimate shot at the mayor. Yeah, because he's been around. He's got some experience. I mean, it's all. The thing is, you don't need like 20,000 votes. You need like 40,000 votes to win. A mayoral race or a seat on council and whatnot. So it's not easy. So right now, as I say, there's probably about a dozen of us that are all sort of hoping to be the party's probably going to pick 5 or 6, I hear, and tender those.
Oh, I see.
So there's a right now.
And how is that decision made?
It's decided in May by the party itself. The party will do
it's not a vote.
A vote.
It is a vote.
It is a vote. So right now, I'm not only trying to convince party members, and it's thanks to the books and even the bands. Some people do know who I am.
Yes.
And that's great. That helps with some name recognition. But it's also a matter of signing up party members as well, and bringing new people in that are going to support, getting you on the ballot.
OneCity, I presume, is a more left-wing sort of.
It's kind of a center-left party. It's pro-growth. It's pro. It wants to see some definite change in Vancouver and a change in tone at City Hall. It wants to see building done and no neighborhood exempt from it, which upsets some West Siders and
right.
and some people who would probably otherwise vote for Team, another party and whatnot. I think it's OneCity's year to break out. William Azaroff is the mayoral candidate, and he's a very sound, very smart guy. And I think as Vancouverites get to know him in the course of this year, I think he's got a great shot at being a mayor, and lots of people believe in him.
Can I presume Ken will run again?
Ken is apparently running again. I didn't think he would.
Why? Just because he's
I
so
thought
popular
I thought Ken is. I've met Ken a couple times before, and he's likable enough in person.
He is.
I disagree with lots of things that the council, the ABC Council has done, but I got the feeling that Ken likes showing up at events and being the mayor, but he doesn't like getting booed. Like he was getting booed at certain things, and there's been a real turn. I think the axes are really out for ABC, and Sarah Kirby-Young is a friend of mine. She's a good, city council. Michael Klassen's a nice guy too. There's good people there. Peter Montague has been a complete disappointment, and Lenny Cho has been after his actions this last while. So there's lots of people who want to see ABC gone and Ken Sim gone.
I
think there's still a lot of support out there for them. They're not going to be easy to knock out of there. But with Team only really, in my opinion, having any support on the West Side, and Vancouver Liberals, I don't know who they are. I don't know. The knives out for ABC. I think Sean will keep his Cope seat. I'm not sure if anybody will bring in. I'm not sure if the same ways with Pete. While Pete has a shot at mayor, I don't know if anybody has their slate as a. They might, but people are just kind of getting to know them after they announce their slate. But I think it's OneCity's year to break through, and there's some really good candidates. Other than myself, that's part of the weird thing right now, because right now I'm competing against some friends, some new friends that I met that are otherwise. I think I met them and I think, well, I'll vote for you. You seem like and I think to myself, well, you're sort of the competition. You're sort of competing with. So, but the nice thing is, that everybody sort of has their specialty as well, to a certain extent. And there was somebody from the party that stopped me and said, well, Aaron, you're probably the most interesting person that's running for Vancouver City Council, regardless of party, because there's no best-selling authors, Vancouver historians that are running. And I said, well, is that a compliment or an insult? Because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an urban planner. I don't come from necessarily a housing activist background. Like a lot of the people who you see running for city council, that's the world that most of those people come from. That somebody who comes from very much an arts and entertainment world, and who's an author and a little bit of a known person in town to a certain degree. I'm I'm not Michael Bublé or anything like that, or yourself, of course. But anyway, the point being is that it's a different world to come.
Jonathan Simkin, you're saying.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't have a podcast that says I hate everybody hates Aaron Chapman or I hate Aaron Chapman. I should. I know I will have arrived when I get that, and that'll happen inevitably, because the weird thing with civic politics, as soon as you sign up with one party, immediately you lose some people who, I don't like that party, I'm not going to vote for you.
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed you're going to. And I hear that from people. I don't like that. I'm not going to. I was like, well, why? And then I have to try and say, well, that's not. And this is a different thing. What you've read about is not. And you try and. Then you're campaigning, then you're convincing people, which is fun, because I have turned some people around to explain to them. One thing that gets talked about with OneCity a lot of the time is people say, well, it's a pro-growth party, that they don't care about any heritage or history preservation. And I say that's nonsense. In fact, me just being there would be a safeguard against that, because
history of Vancouver.
I know exactly what has historical value, and some things that don't. That it's just the building and size change so much. There's actually no more historical value on the inside. That's actually just the outside. And the building itself. That's the main, thing. So it's been fun. It's been exciting. I'm hoping that, like I say, I've been cajoling and calling lots of people to, hey, do you want to be a party member? I'm, that way you can vote for me in the May, and I'm sort of hoping to pass that next hurdle. And then once that's done, if you are picked as one of those 5 or 6, then you're kind of unleashed on the city, and then you start campaigning. Way you go till October. Although most people really don't start paying attention probably till September or so. So it'll be a long summer if
I'm not a big politics guy. I mean, I believe in what I believe in. I definitely have strong feelings about things. I can't say I know a ton about civic politics. I don't want to lie about that. But I'll say this. I've known Aaron forever. He's a good dude. I'm looking at the camera. So you know that, and that's something you don't know about anybody unless you know it.
I appreciate your endorsement.
Reasonable human being here.
Well, here's the things that you would appreciate. There's lots of things that we can do. I mean, we talk about the history and heritage preservation in the city, and so much that gets talked about with homes and people, and that, which is fine. There's a good reason for some of that, but it has to do with venues as well. We've seen so many venues, both commercial and nonprofit, go because the person doesn't own the building, that they're not in command of. So there's lots of things that we can do, I think, within the arts and entertainment world of varying levels to make that industry and make that sector get a little bit of a helping hand, or do some things for them that isn't happening in the city. And
I need to do my research because I really
there's lots of things on Granville Street that we can do to improve.
100%.
That nightclub area and the entertainment.
Well,
there's lots of even small things we do. For instance, I was talking to a developer friend of mine, and they said when a tenant moves into one of their buildings, wants to put a store in or something, if they want to put a sign up, it takes about 3 to 6 months to get that sign approved. Now, if you're a Taco Bell, you can sit on that place and sit on that lease for months waiting for you to get operational or whatnot. But if you're like a mom and pop business, you can't wait that long to start advertising your sign. So what can we do to, have that, or maybe quota, or even just turn it into a 10-day turnaround?
Yep.
Where if your sign fits into a certain window, you're done. Go for it. There's lots of surgical things that's so much what Vancouver City
and very nothing practical to do with big philosophy. Just common sense
and just that we have to go in there and do. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to see, change. Let people do what they want. I mean, with some reason, your restaurant maybe that's around the corner from where you live maybe doesn't need to be open until 4 a.m. or something like that. If you live, if it's in somewhat of a resident, but if there's a nightclub that's been there since 1966. That should be allowed to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
The amazing thing was, I remember in the 1990s, people, this is pre-internet, before you could read or hear about a band, you just hear some good stuff saying, hey, these guys are playing, I hear good things. You went out.
That's how I found bands.
You went out.
Yep.
You just went out, and everybody went out.
Yep.
And people don't do that anymore. It's a lot more expensive, of course, to go out. It's not as easy.
I just think kids, like my kids, couldn't. I mean, the only thing they want to go to are huge shows. Like, there's no interest in seeing small anything. Like, they're going to see that. Who's that? Kendrick Lamar's cousin who's playing at the. Anybody know? Do you know?
I forget his name.
I'm not a big hip hop guy, but it's interesting.
There's no interest. I mean, to me, I almost came up in sort of.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There we go.
Yep.
We did.
Baby Keen. Yeah.
Kimi.
Oh, gotcha.
We came up in an almost sort of post vaudeville era of being excited to go to the clubs, going to see these places, going to be in them and whatnot. Anybody who's a young person, 20-year-old musician, they just want to upload their tracks and be discovered. And it's interesting. You said something in Vancouver After Dark, my book, and I quoted that it's not as though Spotify has like a local chart.
Nope.
Or anything like that. So there's nothing grassroots at all.
Nope.
That really springs.
Which also went into my decades thinking about how scared I was and how
we're going to lose this stuff otherwise. There's some of the stuff that really deserved to get a shot.
Yeah.
And for whatever thing at the time didn't, but still does now. I mean, I've still got some of those old CDs that I'd thrown. I thought, man, this is great. Why didn't this ever?
I talked to you about doing a decades release.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, is there anything you want to? We're going to wrap this up. Anything you want to? I mean, you've talked about the OneCity. That's obviously a huge thing for you right now.
Yes.
Anything else you want to promote? Mention?
There's a new book called Real Enough: The Unlikely History of Doug and the Slugs.
You're writing that?
That is coming out next month.
Wow.
That I wrote with Simon Kendall, one of the Slugs. And an interesting thing is we have Doug's diaries that he kept that are published. There was a little bit mention in the film Doug and the Slugs and Me, the documentary that the CBC showed a few years back, but. It's almost Doug, who passed away some 20 years ago.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's more than 20.
Wow.
That Doug almost comes back. And it's funny, going through his diaries, there were points where he writes like he was on stage, like even though he kept this, and Simon talked about how he always saw him scribbling in the back of the van, this stuff. He wrote that somebody was going to read this. And at one point he says, somebody's going to read this 20 years from now. And so Doug's stories come back, and sometimes Simon and Doug are talking about the same thing, but they're kind of arguing with one another, or commenting on the same thing.
And when's that coming out?
That's coming out next month.
And on what press?
Anvil Press is
Yep.
putting it out.
Yep.
And I think that'll be, it's interesting to look back on that band. And one thing that Doug and the Slugs and Me, this documentary that came out a few years back that Teresa Altfeld did, who was Doug's next door neighbor who grew up with his daughters.
Right.
And just knew that her dad, as a young girl, knew her dad was some Canadian rock star or something and didn't understand. It's told through her lens. Things that sort of, I like the film very much. One of the things I didn't like about it as much is that the question of, because it never broke in the States, was this a success? And I thought to myself, well, yeah, they didn't get the hit that they could pay their homes off, or when
there's no Call Me Maybe in that.
There's no Call Me Maybe in that, but it's okay. That it was our thing, that we got it.
It's funny.
And to somebody like yourself, you probably disagree with me
about what?
About the nature of, they never broke, and so was it a success?
My definition of success in the business is probably different than a lot of people's.
Yeah.
So I don't, like somebody asked me that recently. I was talking to an artist we're talking to, and she brought her father.
Yeah.
Like, what's your definition of success? I said, honestly, that you can make a living in the music business.
Yeah.
To me, forget the acclaim, forget the accolades. If you can pay your rent.
Yeah.
You're a success.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
And that's what they did. They were one of the few. You can name all the bands that played 5 nights at the Commodore on one hand. Tragic Hit, Blue Rodeo, Colin James, Mother did it. Although they did 2 shows in one day. They did an all-ager show in one day to count that 5. And Doug and the Slugs. So they were kind of a real Vancouver band. They were.
But I only remember 2 hits, and one of them I loved and one of them I hated.
Right.
There was Too Bad.
Yeah.
Too bad that you, baby. Yeah. Like a great song. I mean, that's just a fun song.
And that's what they were.
And then, was it Chinatown Calculation?
Oh, yeah.
What a horrid song.
Yeah, that wasn't one of my
nothing
favorites.
catchy, nothing. I'm just like,
Real Enough was my favorite song, which is why I wanted to call the book that, because it's starts as like a doo-wop song and then turns into a ska song almost.
Yeah, that's an interesting song.
And I just thought it was so fun, and the video they did for it was fun. And I remember growing up thinking, God, these guys look, it was like a little gang they had.
Yeah.
And there was Doug and his henchmen there, and you kind of recognized them all. And I thought, if you could be as big as Doug and the Slugs.
Yeah.
To me, that's all I perceived being a bar band. And if the bars got bigger, so be it, but.
So what's the book called?
The book's called Real Enough, The Unlikely History of Doug and the Slugs.
On Anvil Press.
On Anvil Press is coming out in May. And then I'm working on a book in England with a band called The Men They Couldn't Hang. Which I probably got to go back over there for a little bit, and we're looking for a UK publisher for that, and that'll come out hopefully maybe next year.
And of course, you have the OneCity.
And OneCity, and if hopefully I'll get a Vancouver City Council and keep working here.
Which is, boy, wouldn't that be something?
Lots of stuff to do.
An interesting chapter.
Yeah, lots of stuff to do. I worry about it sometimes because I've met with people on council, and I say, I get there's a lot of reading, and a lot of things, and a lot of long meetings and hearing people drone on, or there's 108 speakers who want to speak at City Council night about this proposition that you got to sit through and listen through. And I see my friends in there, and I've spoken at City Council before, at some things. And I sometimes think, geez, what am I getting into? But
well, people, I mean, what can I say? The Renaissance man here.
Yes.
Aaron Chapman, Renaissance man.
Trying to, yes.
Musician, author, politician, broadcaster.
Yeah.
What don't you do?
I do my own stunts.
You do your own stunts as well?
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, from one guy used to be a fat pig and lost his, I think you and I proved that just because you lose weight doesn't mean you're not disgusting.
That's it. At the end of the day, we're skeleton pigs.
Yeah, exactly. We were fat pigs, now we're skeleton pigs.
Yeah, that's it.
Still pigs.
We're still the same people. Don't worry, folks. We haven't changed. Yeah.
As the producer Alex always likes me to do, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please hit the subscribe button. please hit the follow button, the like button, whatever other fucking stupid
All the
buttons there are. All the buttons on there, even the dislike one, I don't care. Just interact with it in some way. That's helpful to us. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Best of luck with the election stuff.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll know in a month or so if I make the next step. So
and if you do,
I might have to come back again and ask you for a job if I haven't.
If you are successful,
yes,
just know I will be back to blackmail you for all sorts of things.
We have a history that we did date. We only alluded to it in the show that we did date, but that'll come back to haunt us both. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, everybody. See you on the next episode.